Coco, and
welcome to Love at First Taste, the dating show where we try to solve the age-old mystery: is food really the way to the heart? I'm Danielle Victoria, and I'll be your host for today.
We could go to Mars or maybe some farther. If it gets crazy, I did my best.
These are our two daters. We have Kevin here. Welcome, Kevin. Thanks for coming to the show today. And we have Kenya.
What's up?
All right, may the best man win. As the producer and creator of the show, I want to give you a chance to get your taste at love. So if you're single, you're looking, you love to cook, please hit us up at 5o'clockproductions@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Facebook at Love at First Taste on Facebook.
But it's coming soon, any day now.
Let's hit the grab.
Shit. Yo. Sitting in the dark corner, promise all I see, lost in the haze, trying to figure out an exit strategy. Dropped in the phone now with no IG.
Full media release.
Down, hoping someone will find me. Feeling like the steps I take lead me to nowhere. Close to the bottom, looking up, gas before air. Never saw me in the ring and nobody cares. Now how do I tag? Gotta make it out of here. Looking at this beautiful mess that I call my life, a masterpiece formed from a view of my heart that I write. Give it just a little darkness, just a little light, so I don't drown myself in my worries at night. But I keep pushing, for what reason is the question. I keep stressing, grab my blessings, use it as a compass for the right direction to keep moving. But sometimes I feel like I'm running straight into a brick wall that's 20 feet tall. I try to climb up, but I fall. Trying to get up and get pushed back down. How am I gonna get past this brick wall now? I'm running straight into a brick wall that's 20 feet tall. I try to climb up, but I fall. Trying to get up and get pushed back down. How am I gonna get past this brick wall now? I don't have much, but my mind and God's grace, all the blessings that He puts in my place. I hide behind a smile, so you can't read my face, so I can tell it all. On these kicks of mad bass, who all has the answers? Cause I know that I don't. Ring around the rosy on the patch of blind hope. Ashes to ashes, they all fall, but I won't. Even when the tides are rising higher than my boat. That's a scantron. I'm trying to shade the right bubble. Pop quiz every day, trying to knock me off my hustle. Devil got the cheat sheet, trying to get me into trouble, but I know better. This is a temporary struggle. No job, don't know when I'ma get my next income. I can spend all day asking God how come, but swimming in sorrow isn't gonna change the outcome. This brick wall is gonna block the life of my son. I'm running straight into a brick wall that's 20 feet tall. I try to climb up, but I fall. Trying to get up and get pushed back down. How am I gonna get past this brick wall now? I'm running straight into a brick wall that's 20 feet tall. I try to climb up, but I fall. Trying to get up and get pushed back down. How am I gonna get past this brick wall now? Oh, that echo effect was the shit. Alrighty, so I'm gonna do one more for y'all. Again, my name is Mr. Composition MC that writes fiction, and this is HWC 2018. Oh yeah. Yo. Listen for the sound of the lost cars, scream out with locked jaws. The journey's never ended for the pinned in. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's coming soon. Any day now, any day now, any day now. Yo, it's coming soon. Any day now. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's coming soon.
Any day now, yo, it's coming soon. Any day now, I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's coming soon. Any day now.
Yo, these faded thoughts never felt so sober. Riding the detox, people when the feeling is closer. Yeah, the feeling is closer than when the feel when it's over. Yo, my passion is burning and what diminishes smolder. Then it's warm and colder. Shot the toxic in my blood vein. This cold rain feels like fire till the heat of pain. Something's coming and I see it through the blurry game. Keep it moving, silence like a Honda cane. That paranoia just crippled for the days to come. The test of time will decide if I stand or run. Heard it all before, the same change will come. To such a trouble, I'm expecting either one. It's to the point when I see my feel the stage presence. Pray to the heavens, so my lungs are breathless. Watch for the movement, faking everything I vow. And it's coming soon, any day now. Listen for the sound of the lost cars, scream out with locked jaws. The journey's never ended for the pinned in. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's coming soon. Any day now, any day now, any day now. Yo, it's coming soon, any day now. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's coming soon. Yo, the long walker, word stalker, Dr. Jessica. I don't know. Coming soon, any day now. Again, my name is Mr. Compensation. That writes fiction, and this has been the composition during HWC, during GOK. It's an event inside of an event, and another event packaged as an ultimate event. So, thank y'all so much. This has been HWC. Want some last words?
When I was just 12 years old. I don't have anything else to say. Thank you guys for coming out. I'll have more to say tomorrow. I'm going to save it for tomorrow. But if you do get to come out tomorrow, that'd be awesome. If not, you definitely watch the video, because that'll be out. Hopefully, ASAP Rocky. It's definitely going to be out though. And once it's out, it's going to stay out. So, wonderful.
Like, get the interview with the...
Yeah, let's do that.
Chase the shadow in the night. So tell me the way. No more wasted love to make things right. So tell me the way.
Is there diet anything here?
Yeah, so really that type of content not as scary as a conventional holding. It's just a small, tiny little gun. So it's not like cutting young doing a major surgery, you have to cut the gums and all the stuff. See, they're pretty small.
Yeah.
And they can easily drop into your gums and you'll be fine.
So how fast can we get this done?
Yeah, yeah, this stuff too, you're done. You'll be good. You're ready to smile, enjoy, and enjoy your celebrity life.
Yeah, it's a drugstore company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do I have to go first?
Yep.
Oh man, thank y'all for coming out, man. Yes. All right, man. Y'all be safe too, man. Thank you, man. Y'all be safe.
What's up, guys? It's Kenyo here. HWC Holiday Writers Convention. Hashtag HWC 2018. By the way, if you guys take pictures, you can tag hashtag Holiday Writers Convention or hashtag HWC 2018 for this year's stuff. So I'm here right now with one of the vendors who came through the composition at HWC, and boom, let's talk about it. Vendors have a special place in my heart because you guys are up against the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world, and you decentralize, the way that money flows. And so in some ways, you guys are like, active agents of change. So that's really cool. How do you? Was it weird deciding to jump into vendor things? Did you have family members who were like, "You want to start your own stuff? It'll never work."
It was weird. I worked at a bank, and I had that typical. It wasn't a Monday to Friday 8 to 5 job, but it was really good. And I decided I don't want to work for corporate in America anymore.
Yeah.
So I had a few friends that were with direct sales companies, and they were doing really well. So I jumped on the bandwagon.
Nice.
And now I get to stay home with my kid and do this for fun.
Super awesome. What is this exactly?
So this Color Street, it's a brand new company. It's been out for about a year and a half, since July. And it's 100% nail polish. It's 85% cured, so you just stick it on your nail and you go.
Okay. Very cool.
So, yeah. Got a lot of
wearing
nail
it right
art, and yes, of course.
Okay, let me check it out. Super cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, glitter and nail art and everything,
cool.
so you don't have to spend all that money at
I was
the
thinking
salon.
about getting into nail art myself in order to take, my performances to the next level for the people. Why are you laughing? You should look into it too, okay? All right, all the little yachties of the world, they got their nails colored. So, as a rapper,
There
just
you
saying. But super duper cool. If you were gonna give one thing to someone who's jumping into being their own vendor, what would you say is the secret sauce of your success? Or I usually find out that there's no secret sauce. There's just some things that some people are willing to do that others aren't willing to do. So what is it about you? What is it that you think you're willing to do that others won't do that kind of gives you the hustle success?
Well, I think passion and hard work.
Yeah.
You gotta love what you're selling, love what you're doing.
Yeah.
For me, I love nail art. Every 2 or 3 days I was changing my nails. I absolutely love it. Now I don't have that much time.
Yeah.
But this allows me to keep up my passion, and I just love it. And then, you have to put yourself out there to get customers and stuff, so a lot of hard work, so long hours. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations and just go for it until something happens.
Very cool. Super awesome. I had one more question, but in due Kenyo fashion, I've properly forgotten it. So we will...
Where can they find you?
Oh, yes. Okay, so they can find me on Facebook. I have my own page, Monica's Fashion Fix, Nails Edition. And then I also have the website, mycolorstreet.com/Monica's Fashion Fix. Everything will be there on my Facebook page. I have a lot of videos on how to apply it, and I'm going to have different sales and deals and everything through there.
Cool. I remembered my question. Do you remove it with nail polish remover?
Yes.
See, that was a good question. If I hadn't asked that question, that one sale wouldn't have gone through.
It's 100% nail
That's what
polish,
the people
so
are
it's
thinking.
just like you use your own bottle.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's very interesting. I'm very interested in the science of it, but we'll have to take that discussion.
All right.
Thank you so much, Monica.
You're welcome.
HWC 2018. Out.
Travel back in time inside our minds to change the future. I know that we all get a shot, and this is it.
extra? That's a question you ask yourself about Los Angeles when you're in the Antelope Valley. 24 at a time, learning nursery rhymes and pottery. I hate to think I made you 3 hours away from home, then we're collaborating 3 million times more. In Deep Ellum, I discovered time travel. In Deep Ellum, I read 4 poems. Alright, Chosen is up next. Thank you so much. This is a revolution, okay? We're gonna change San Antonio.
That's that first one. Just to warm you up a little bit. Get you ready for
On your attention, begging for your perspective. Finally, I see it's not me, it's your words, your actions, your beliefs that will accomplish the vision.
What if you just saw me like downtown and had a table set up with like all this stuff? I'd be like, oh! It's no big deal. We're rolling? What's up, guys? HWC 2018. It's your boy, Kenyo Freezy, or some people call me Kenyo Mac Daddy for shizzle.
Do they?
No, yeah, all up and down the streets. East side, south side, west side, central, north central. But I'm here right now with the awesome Naomi, something to say. I have another question for you, but we'll do that later. Right now, we're here at her vendor table. The question was about like your poetry and stuff. Did Growing Apart together? Did you?
They did.
Okay. Are you gonna do it?
I don't know.
Okay. Cool.
I'm thinking about it.
All right. But so this setup is very cool. You have a bunch of stuff. Is 100% handmade?
Yes. Everything you see is handmade by myself.
Okay.
I got my start 5 years ago. I decided to go out on my own for Kwanzaa on the first day, which is Umoja. The first principle of Kwanzaa is unity. Yes. So I went out on my own and I set up a table and pretty much rocketed from there. And all my style is a lot of my personal style, things that are part of my normal aesthetic. So a lot of my friends and family were saying, people will actually pay you for this stuff. And I'm like, no. And the first time that I went out, I almost sold out of everything that I had. So wow. The rest is history.
Super cool. How do you make something like this one right here? This one's really cool.
Lasers.
Oh, very cool. You have one yourself? Pew, 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 pew. You have a laser machine?
I am in the process of getting one.
Okay. Okay. So obviously, either way, you have that one made.
Make sure you edit that in there. Every time it's like,
yeah. No, I mean, you're doing it, What's your favorite piece here?
My favorite piece, actually one of my newer pieces. I have a few favorites. Right now, I call her the Level Up Queen. This is strictly handmade. She is made out of mirror mosaic, which I pretty much put together myself as a puzzle.
Nice.
Everything that you see here, I have hand sewn all of my African head wraps. I was also featured in the Institute of Texts and Cultures for my personal aesthetic alongside of my husband and his sneaker collection. You can actually look that up in the San Antonio Express News. We were there for about 4 months. We are now part of the Smithsonian Institute for Culture, African American Culture. So you can see a lot of our pictures and our interviews in that time capsule.
Very cool.
We'll be there forever.
That's super awesome. I'm gonna check that out. You guys are aliens are gonna base their assessment off of us.
If you see an alien walking around with a top knot, you know that I did that.
Basically, it's super accurate. Super duper cool.
You know what? I want to try something on you. This is actually my newest piece. I don't have a name for him yet. This is my first piece of the male collection because I've been getting so many men
I'm super excited
asking me for jewelry. Where's the stuff for the fellas?
Yeah, I got a lot of bling.
I knew y'all, do stuff, but I didn't know if you like my stuff.
It's one thing to read a poem. If I walk on stage with this on,
it's amethyst, which is a natural stone. I'm also very impartial to it because amethyst is my first
What metal
stone.
is this?
That is copper.
Okay.
That
I don't know
is
if
something.
I have some metal allergies. I don't know if copper is one of them. But
No,
I don't have to
copper is
wear it all
actually
day.
no.
Yeah.
Copper is good for your circulation.
Oh man, with this shirt too.
I mean, you got the Thanos vibe going on. Just saying, but instead of disintegrating
cool.
people, you're going to enhance
them, enlighten them.
Right, because amethyst is the positivity
This
stone.
is pretty cool. I like it, guys. Take a picture, Kevin.
I mean, y'all can do a GoFundMe if y'all want to sew into Kenyo's. That is $45. I mean, people. And let me help you. See, it's very, very secure, and it's easy to come off. You just squeeze it.
I'm
Like
definitely
so.
gonna get one of these in my collection sometime soon.
It'll be here for you. It might not be.
Well, I mean, if you sell this one, I assume you would
But I
make
mean,
another
I can
one.
make another. But I mean, I try not to because a lot of my things are couture. And also, let me put you on to something very, very hip.
Well, how
I
heavy
am
this
the
is.
only person in San Antonio that makes these.
What?
These are blue jean clutch purses. I have branded myself because, you know, a lot of people try to imitate, and, you know, imitation is a serious form of flattery.
It really is.
But I can never be duplicated. So all of my purses are couture. I try to keep them as individual as people are. And my signature is my pink inside. I actually have earrings in here. I try to sell them in sets because, you know, what's a purse without something cute to wear it with? So I have a choker and earrings in this particular piece. But it's enough for you to run to the store, run a HEB, or a night on the town. And the pockets are functional.
That's super interesting that you say that, the functionality of it. Ever since I jumped into purse life myself, I've realized, you know, there's probably different purses for different occasions.
There is.
Because my fiance, she brings around, actually I don't know how much I should be saying this, but she brings around this one bag, you know, it's full of all kinds of stuff.
I mean,
she doesn't seem to have like a day bag. I'm like, what if you're just going, you know, maybe you don't need, you know, the gauze and some of the other stuff and the snacks, you know?
But
maybe, I'm just joking, she doesn't have
she
gauze
probably
or
has snacks. I mean, I do, but I mean, you never know. You might get stuck in traffic. You got to pull out that handy granola snack. So
it's true.
That's me. But
true.
This is...
That's a good, like, I just need to run to the store.
Run to the store. You can run to the club.
It's a day mission really quick. Run to the club.
Day to night piece,
Okay.
which is one of my top favorites, one of my best-selling ones. That's why I have one left. I actually will have more in the coming weeks because it is the holidays and I'm trying to make sure everybody is the hero. Fellas, if you want to get your lady something fly that she doesn't, you know, have to worry about seeing somebody else with that exact bag, you want to hit me up. You definitely want to hit me up. And I'm very, very fair with my pricing.
Where can they find you?
Yeah, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Say That Accessories, or you can follow me under the hashtag Be Heard or hashtag Where Did You Get That?
Scoop, thank you.
Thank you. Boom. We did it.
We did it. Awesome. You want
I lost it all on the way to what I really wanted. Out in the cold, but if I bleed, I know I really want it. How can I fall if the floor already saw me coming? Out on the road, driving through the night into the morning. Hit by a truck, so I know I must be doing something. Gave up on luck, cause the blessings keep the engine running. Losing my mind, so I wrote it down and sent it out. She caught the vibe and read the viper from my mouth. I ain't got nothing left to lose. Cause I ain't got nothing left to prove. And I ain't losing the best to you. Cause you are my life. And I ain't got nothing left to lose. Cause I ain't got nothing left to prove. And I ain't losing the best to you. Cause you are my life. And I live it the hard way. Yeah, I live it the hard way.
What comfort is where it's at. I was hoping he was going to sit down.
What's up, guys? It's Mr. Composition MC That Writes Fiction, and I'm here with...
My name is Chris, but my friends call me Angel. I am known as the Trippy Artist on Instagram.
And why do they call you the Trippy Artist?
Because I'm an artist and I fall down a lot. Very much. No, I'm very magical, like I'm on that stuff, but you know, that's at least that's what I say.
And so, the inspiration for your art piece, because these are super unique and these are super dope, and so what inspired, is it the psychedelics that inspires this, or where are you at creatively when you come up with these?
If I'm honest, I don't necessarily have like a set reason why. It's kind of all just creative throw up in a way. I see a lot of very creative music videos and I'm very into music. So these pins actually, they did have a meaning behind them. I saw Janelle Monáe's music video, Pink, and I saw she had some vagina pants, and that inspired me to just make these because why not? I thought they were cute. I thought the pants were cute. I tried to get into like sewing and that didn't work out. It went back to hot glue and E6000.
And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for a good 5 years. I've recently just started doing like events for 3 years.
How's it been so far?
Yeah.
As far as setting up for events, like
as far as
when you went from doing this and then saying, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and get out in the world.
A lot of people say it's very different and it's very out there, and I absolutely love that. Because in my, I say this a lot, I just like making very censored people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, because why not? You know, even just these, our bodies are beautiful, so why can't we talk about them? You know, why can't we show them? Because at the end of the day, we all have the almost exact same thing underneath our clothes, so I mean, why censor it?
Super dope, super dope. And where can they find you online?
Online, only my Instagram. For right now. Things will be definitely building up. I recently started doing these shirts. All of it is from Southern Image Custom Apparel, or Southern Image, I am. Southern Image, you know, hold on, I'm gonna look that up, because if I don't give them a shout out, you know, yeah.
Like sponsorship is done.
Sponsorship, exactly. Southern Image Custom Apparel, I totally had that right. Yeah, you can find them on 4307 South Presa. They do amazing work. I got my shirts done there. On the front is my actual brand, the Trippy Cherub, because my middle name is Angel, and that's what just people knows me. And like I said, I fall down a hell of a lot. Yeah, and the design on the back of the shirt is by yours truly. So.
And what's one thing you're looking forward to for 2019 that you didn't get a chance to do this year?
Write my name in cement. That. Yeah, I know that's a weird thing to say, but I've always wanted to do that. You know? I mean, what better place than 2019? We're at the end, you know, new year, new me, all that kind of stuff.
Hell yeah, well, thank you for coming
out.
out.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and this is HWC 2018. We out. Yes.
I'm so sure there is a heaven. I find I forget about hell. I prefer all the colors I find in gray filters piercing from here to horizon, anchored tight to conventional knowledge. Age wrinkles the light we capture. Years grip the neck of our perception. We forget that we are geniuses, time-traveling artists creating day with the opening of our eyes. Dreams bear our father's fingerprints. You have 6 years to keep yourself from losing as much as I lost when you walked away.
Oh yeah.
Curious.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
However, Aquaman looks kind of legit. But they did the same thing with the DC, the Justice League. They showed us all the great parts in the trailer, and then the movie was crap.
I saw the little similarities to freaking Black Panther or Aquaman. I was all like, why did y'all do this?
Oh, dude, they cannot compare Black Panther.
Yeah, well,
Without
DC's
dark.
better, but.
Oh, wow.
But you have to be able to look at it in the long
I
scope. I know there's a lot of Marvel fans. They're looking at
comedy.
most
No
people.
plot line.
Most people are looking, within like a 10-year window. But if you look at the history of DC, starting with the best superhero ever, and I know people are wondering who's that. I know because DC has so many. They're all great. Batman, Superman. Which of those two is actually the best? That depends. They're both
Superman
great.
is trash, no matter how you look at
Okay.
it.
Well, that's.
There's no risk. You know he's going to survive. He can turn back time.
I
There's
understand.
no
I understand the
No
idea of
conflict.
that,
Are we
but he dies. He dies in the
Is
comic.
this on right now?
Oh, this is live. That's true.
Oh, this is live?
Let's get back.
Oh,
on.
wow.
Let's get back
So
on
then
track.
y'all know. Where's the camera? Is it right there?
Yeah.
Then y'all know what I'm talking about.
Hopefully, you can hear me better than her because I have the mic that way. Because I use the mic kind of to amplify, I think, the truth, And so I pass it when I think other people are ready to contribute to the construction of that truth. But it's a lot harder than you think. I'm villainous. I'm a villain. I'm just joking. Not a villain, most likely.
Can you be a dope ass man?
I like playing villains. If I ever get to do any acting, I like to play villains. Okay, so I just want to sum of you guys, sum yourselves up for this thing. Actually, we don't even need to do that. I kind of want to just go right into some stuff. Where do you think writing is heading? We see stuff like Marvel and DC. That's kind of an interesting, insight into where we're going to be headed for the future of film. Where do you think film is heading? You do a lot of work in media. I mean, that's like your main thing. So, what do you anticipate you to be doing that you'll be doing in another 5 to 10 years?
I think the film industry in general, with media, is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
In our culture, in society in general. The writing has become much more, I don't know if you've been able to pick it out or notice, but the writing has become much more raw. People are telling the truth much more than just a good story. They're finding that, the truth is a good story. So there's a lot more, documentary, a lot more based off of a true story, but, even fictional, characters or fictional movies or stories, instead of making it grand and fantastical and everything is great. A lot of script writers and screenwriters, they are just telling the truth, and that is what is causing a lot more, in my opinion, and with what I have seen with Madhouse Domain, telling the truth brings much more impact, inspiration, even entertainment than what we can just pull from our hats as creatives.
Yeah.
No, that's 100% correct. I mean, when I took marketing at Full Sail, one thing about advertising and marketing is the story. When you start seeing Nike commercials where they're tugging on the heartstring, the single mother who's doing this for her child, and then the child grows up to be an athletic star and everything like that, people can really relate to that, and things like Black Panther, what I really liked about that was the fact that they tied in such a relatable plot line, because you had, as far as when you're even here in the United States, when you're someone who is educated or someone who quote unquote leaves the ghetto or things like that, you automatically have this particular perception, because a lot of us need healing, and we for so long have been taught to go against each other. And even when we were trying to band together, it's all like, yeah, here comes a grenade and, you know, military bombing and some shit. But, you know, we're able to, you know, learn from that and be able to weave the type of story that we see in something like Black Panther, where you have almost like this African versus African American narrative, because here, you know, that's something that was, unless it was taught to you or you had that particular want to even learn more, you didn't know that amazing stuff. Like, it would seem like Wakanda when you find out like the amazing history that's there in Africa. You know, it's mind-blowing. You know, when you look at you hear about the first castles that are there, that were made there, and you hear about these crazy cities in the time where there were mud huts. Like, you know, you're able to see the carbon dated and be able to see like, oh, this happened like almost 100 years apart. You know, so that type of information and knowledge when it comes to what's deep within us, like our genetics, I think that, you know, we have an obligation, you know, to storytell. And that's why, you know, people say whatever as far as like, oh, Marvel's, you know, by, you know, rest in peace, you know, white guy and things like that. But we forget who had creative control over that to be able to connect with so many people that, you know, are here in America that are able to be like, you know, it seems like a fairy tale. You know, that's why, even though a lot of people didn't agree with, you know, Killmonger, they understood deeply that reasoning behind that.
That's interesting. So, given that, that's where we are right now, where do you think writing is going? If I may ask.
Well, why don't you answer?
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right, we're getting a little saucy. We're getting upset with each other. I didn't know this was going to be a brawl. Well, I think, you want to know what I think? I think this is where writing's headed. No, I'm just joking. All right, if I had to guess, I think that, I think poetry, for one, is going to have a resurgence, because I think it's one of the most authentic kinds of writing. And I agree with what Lauren said too. I do think that we are going towards more realism. I think writing, I wonder, you know, because art changes all the time. Like with music, you know, you have at the time, you know, in jazz, where like the drummers were everything, right? And then, you know, now we're sort of in a time where I think sound engineers are getting more and more popular, you know, and people are known for being producers and certain things. You know, it used to be musicians weren't really that known. It was all about the singer. So I feel like different things can be highlighted at different times. I feel like writing is kind of falling into a place where it's becoming somewhat unidentifiable in some genres, like reality TV. So there's like writers there, there's people who understand stories, story crafters, and I think they probably get credited as writers. I don't know how they get credited on reality. They have writers, yeah, you see writers. That's why it's like, oh, this is reality TV, and then you see a bunch of writers. So I think his writing gets ambiguous like that, and there's a lot of people whose job it is just to create storylines. I think more and more writers will probably go into producer type roles. I don't know what media is going to look like. I feel like there's going to be a lot more people just watching vlogs. I think so. I don't know, and more real stuff. And then there'll be documentaries, and so those will have producers, and those people will help craft storylines. I also think there's a lot of room for writers, maybe somewhere. This is me just going in on it now. Like in the future, I think there's a lot of room for writers in science, in different kinds of science, like because they need a lot of creative help, and there's going to be so much going on. Like I think we need so many more coders, which we're like bumping that up, right? So we're increasing coders. And what about coders? Are coders writers? You know, to what extent is someone who writes, you know, a piece of, after the language of computer writing is more streamlined, someone who writes an experience that's better than someone else. To what degree are they a writer? I don't know. So in general, I'm just throwing out random ideas. I think writing in the future is going to be, I think poetry is going to come back, and it's going to be, it didn't go anywhere. A lot of people are reading poetry, but I think the attention is going to shift more and more to it. I saw this one poet on Jimmy Fallon, and I was like, that's pretty cool. That was like the first poet, Rupi Kaur. She wrote Milk and Honey. You know, everyone's loving that book. There's other good books of poetry. Anyway, out there, but she's really great right now. I'm not a hater. She's doing really great right now, and to have like a poet go on Jimmy Fallon, you know, like you didn't think that was going to happen after like Maya Angelou. So I think there's going to be more room for that, especially when we really think about what that role is for being a poet. I think that's what's a little bit confusing right now, because it's like the awards and everything, they don't really stack up. Like there's probably a Pulitzer Prize for poetry, I'm assuming. There's a Grammy for a spoken word album. So there's a lot of celebration around some of the apparatus of like music and TV, and there's so many people who work on these projects now, they're so collaborative, that I think celebrating them, there's more to celebrate there because there's more money being generated in those fields, so you can spend more money on the celebrations, which means that, you know, you can include, and then, well, which means that you have a higher level of production value before you even start spending money on production, and then there's so much attention already in those fields. So I don't know how that's going to end up happening with poetry. I feel like a lot of that stuff is going to be taken away by social media. Yeah, because I mean, with media, production costs are so low now that I think, and then awards, what do you really need an award show for when everyone can tell you what they think about everything? You would almost just want to see, like, I don't know, maybe like stats polls. I think there could be like some kind of website that really aggregates polls in a certain kind of way, in like that you won't really need a Grammys, because I don't really know what the Grammys offer. No one believes in their judgments in general, like, and it's not really even set up to judge music. It's been set up. It's the, what is it? The name of the place. It's set up to give awards to sound engineers, essentially. Well, it's set, the voting is done by music industry people, and it's a sound engineer academy that did it, you know, because they make a lot of money from it. So I don't know. So when it comes to picking the musicians, I don't think they do a lot there. And then there's performances, so Coachella could just start filming itself, and that would be more interesting than the Grammys, in my opinion. So what do you guys think about, let's switch topics. Other topic, we'll jump back and forth between writing in the future and self-publishing, and how the decentralization of media, because we can all self-publish now. We can self-publish video. You don't need anything. You can make your own video, you can put it up there, you can submit it to IMDb, you can put credits on your video. Everyone's walking around with a whole studio on their phones, if not their laptops. So there's more media companies than ever, and then in writing, self-publishing is also really cool. First, I guess, what do you guys think of publishing? What do you think publishing, the power of it? Why do you think publishing is important?
So I think publishing is important as far as the fact that you write and you want people to see it, you know, so it's just all like, I think the idea of publishing with social media has turned into this thing where literally when you post something online, you're a publisher, you know, and it's time-stamped, and I think that Gary Vee speaks about it a lot, how we're at a very interesting time with the internet where it's just maybe in its, I don't know, teenage years, early, 20 years, so it's just all like when I think about that time with me, I'm just all like, okay, it definitely wasn't 100% responsible. Like there's still a lot more to learn, when it comes to the internet and publishing, and so I think that, publishing is pretty much just bringing your ideas to the surface, and I think that it's going to become I don't necessarily think that there's going to be more publishing houses. I think that there's going to be more of a way to put a price tag on the fact that we can literally post whenever, you know. So that's pretty much what I think publishing is.
Yeah, I echo a lot of your thoughts as well. I think self-publishing is actually wonderful. I think it's beautiful. A lot of writers or artists in general, I mean, they'd go their entire lives not being allowed the opportunity to have a platform to share their thoughts with an audience that exists outside of their own personal, realm. And so I think that self-publishing and publishing is a wonderful tool to be able to express and share, the ideas that you have as an artist. I think it's a great way also to stay, connected with one another. There's a ton, like with self-publishing, that's everywhere, and you're able to, instead of just having to go to, a bookstore and see somebody on a shelf and how hard it is to get a spot on that shelf, Amazon, you just look online and you can just go to, an app on your phone and see amazing pieces that were done by Joe down the street. And I think that's valuable, and I think that will allow more people to be able to get skin in the game. That's necessary in this time.
Before I give it back, what you were saying before as far as writing in the future, I think that where we're at right now, writers are needed, and I think that it's going to be at a point where they're almost considered like a doctor when it comes to healing, because when you're writing in all different forms, you're able to, I think, we're all authors in different ways, the same way like there would be a rapper that goes off the head and doesn't write any of his stuff. You can think about your everyday life as you're freestyling your life, without having to write it down. And I think that when we start seeing in marketing and movies and video games and, like you're saying, coding, like that's very interesting, because even coding is, a lot of coders speak of it being a language, and what do we do? A language, we write, and so there's going to be, I feel like writers are needed. Like there's been several times where inspiration would like literally wake me out of bed, and that type of, need, and to be able to put that out, even though I wrote it for myself or wrote something that happened to me, the fact that I can write a book, self-publish it, and even though it was something that I wrote for me, people can read it and be like, man, like get out of my head, like that's what I was thinking, and that to me is amazing. That to me is God. That to me is like the way of, looking. These writers for so long were just like painters, and didn't get paid for their work, and and now we're in a day and age where you can self-publish something, you can make money off of it, and that in itself, I think writers are just going to be needed more, because it's healing. You're literally healing, whether it's something simple, like I think about The Alchemist, and I'm just all like, it's healing. It's a fiction book, but it was able to capture the anxiety and the want to pursue something that seemed impossible, and that's what a lot of our dreams can feel like with society. And the more writers that are able to do the impossible, I think that that's going to cause more people to become authors and just write. Like when you look at the history of Timbuktu and the leather-bound, books that our ancestors wrote, a lot of them were stuff like how to please your wife, how to take care of your kids. Like these were like books to help you, we were on that way back then, so I think that's gonna end up circling back around where that's more needed.
I love it. You know, I feel like it must have been something you said, Lauren, that kind of brought that up. Because I was thinking the exact same thing. And when you wanted to talk, I was like, I knew you were going to touch on it because that always happens. I'm like, all right, cool. He'll say it, and then I'll be able to keep thinking about it because that's what I really want to do. And I think there is so much, and I wish when I watch it back, I'm gonna examine what you said that inspired us both to think in this path. Because I was thinking, you know, like writing, especially positive writing, there's so much work for to be done. I think any kind of writing, even if you're not like really doing a good job and you're talking about a lot of negative stuff, I think just the act of coalescing your thoughts creates more intelligent creation out there for us to continue building civilization off of, you know, and it'll exist to whatever degree that it needs to exist, which might just be it was for you to spend your time on it. But I think that when it gets into what makes really good writing, because I was like, what do I like out of really good shows, you know? And they really do level me up. I almost think about all the time, it's like additional, if it's a really cool idea or a really cool emotion that they're codifying into like a certain thing so that it hits me, whatever they're doing, I feel like it's a level up for me. Like I've gone to a new place. I have this new way of thinking. It's gonna change. I have that imagery to use in my own writing, and then I also have those prototypes, those templates to like play out in my day if it's good writing. So I think there's a lot of room for writers to, as you said, heal a variety of sicknesses in society. And I think that's why I love being in media, is because you get to create situations for people to meditate on something and take away something which will help impact their life. And a lot of people are okay, I can, especially right now, if you're in America, there's so many things you can do to dramatically change the quality of your life and the abundance of your resources. There's so many things to do, and it can be really confusing. And then, you know, the hardest part of that is when you venture into some of these unknown places, your ego and your imagination can take control and kind of send you spiraling a little bit. And I think media is a lot of what people latch onto in order to keep themselves sane. And I think the quality of media allows you to do it better. That's why I watch certain stuff. Is because I think that either it's just I like the ideals enough to where it doesn't disturb me and I can just enjoy it like as a fantasy, or I feel like I'm learning something to transform my ego. Like I can get to the place of humility really fast if I watch a certain thing. I can get to deep meditation. That's why I like dramas and why I like, you know, indie music like Fleet Foxes type things, because it gets me in a place of deep meditation. And I think my poetry feeds off of that, and then I write, you know, I put a lot of weird imagery into it, and I have all these like pastoral, you know, like just ideas in my head about beauty and like a strong man heading towards destiny, loving those around him. You know, these narratives that we create, I think watching stuff with that kind of stuff, it helps us jump into that zone super fast.
Well, yeah. If I could just put it like tag a little bit of what you're saying, because we're talking about the power of writers. As writers, we're able to heal others. But I just wanted to back up, make a small little comment. Mm-hmm. Writing is healing to the writer themselves. So, you know, even though we are healing others through our writing, when you are writing, when you are creating, there is an audience of one that needs the process of what you are doing. And that is sometimes, many times, even yourself. Because a lot of times as artists in general, you know, we crave an audience. We do. We work well in front of audiences. But for healing's sake, that audience is an audience of one. Because just by yourself, I know personally, I have written things years ago and I will forget that it even existed, but I will stumble upon it and I will read it and it will bring me healing. It will bring me revelation about myself or about my past seasons. You know, there's definitely been times even where, you know, I'm up against depression and I will read something back then and see where I have come from, and it will put me in a place of thankfulness. It will put me in a place of remembering, hey, I'm not alone here. Okay, we're doing all right. So the power that we have as writers to heal and impact others is fantastic, phenomenal, but it cannot be replaced with the power of being able to even heal yourself in that process. So I just wanted to put that out there.
You had some?
Oh yeah, just that also. No, that's 100% true, because I look at some of my songs from 10, 12 years ago, and I'm just like, did I write this for my future self?
Yes,
Because, it's like, that's something that I felt, but I didn't understand. And I just wrote it, and I was like, all right, this is what I'm feeling, but it didn't hit me personally until later on down the line, and I'm just like, oh, that's wild. And I think that why I say writers are going to be important is because we're healing ourselves in a way that if we don't write, we're depressed. If we don't create, we're depressed. We literally have no choice, or we're going to be depressed. And I think that, we're gonna be like self-medicated healers pretty much. Like we're literally, I think that it's getting to a point where, that is like going to the doctor, that is like a checkup, because there's an energy that goes into it that you automatically, whether it's writing it down, you're getting it out of you. It's almost like getting a sickness out of you, and when it gets on the page, it happens to turn into a garden, like just for the mere fact that, I imagine, if God touches something, or something of that magnitude would be able to touch it and turn it into a garden, and be able to turn something that's destitute and desert into an oasis, just by getting it out of you.
I love that. Super cool. Only thing I wanted to add to it was that I love that healing is not even add, but I also I'm thinking about healing as just as an organized, like a way of organizing things back to the way that they were supposed to be, like what's going on with your body. Honestly, let's say you have a tumor. The tumor's like, this is pretty awesome. He's like, this is the best I've ever lived. He doesn't really care that the person's not. It's not funny at all, I guess, but I can't believe you guys laughed. That was pretty dark. But
ECC,
she said she was breathing. But no, so that thing is living, but I think healing, is like reorganizing it in a way where reorganizing the situation for the good of, whatever is prioritized as good. And for us, there's so many ways. It's to be healthy. It's to have that wealth of your own existence. And so I love that word healing. It's so interesting. I hear it echoed a lot. I was talking to Amina, and she was just going through a period of healing. And I really like that, because it's like reorganizing your life. And what does that really mean? I think sometimes, I was thinking about this earlier today too, like one of the things that I think learning to encounter your problems really teaches you is that you need to understand how your expectations of I was going to write a poem earlier today. Your expectations of yourself are different from what's going to happen, like manifest over time. So you encounter the reality, this problem. Not only do you have to fix the problem to whatever degree you can, but you also have to change yourself. And so we're constantly going through that. And I was going to write this poem that was like when I was 5 years old. I thought I was going to be like, I don't know, something like outlandish, like I don't know, like a superhero of some kind, right? And then when I was 6 years old, and then just going down and down to the outlandishness. And then 5 weeks ago, I thought I was going to be this, and then how I changed it. And just realizing that at every single point, we constantly are changing and reorganizing our own expectations of ourselves, and it's not really downgrading, but it is a fulfillment. Like your desire to be this great whatever thing, it gets fulfilled in the way that you actually turn into whatever version of that, that thing for yourself. So it's like, you might not become Superman, but you also might get to a point where your real interests, your real skills for me are poetry, and I don't know what the other thing is, community management or something like that. But you use those two things, you fulfill those to the max, and then you have poems that help people, that save them from situations. You are able to create an organizational structure that saves people from situations. So reorganizing that in your head and just what storytelling does, that ability to allow yourself to reorganize things towards the good of your life, because sometimes your expectations of yourself can block you from understanding what your real life is supposed to be. You know, like anxiety. What is anxiety? Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, you gotta be anxious. But I'm not trying to do that Nigerian accent right now. But like you can be angry, but it's like everything's gonna play out the way it's gonna play out. And that's what I always try to tell myself whenever, anytime I feel like freaking out, I'm like, honestly, you're better off just going to sleep for the next 6 hours. Quit everything you thought you were gonna do. If you're on the sidewalk, you better find some nice cardboard, put it over yourself, take a nap, sir. Because obviously there's something going on with how you're perceiving reality. So you need to wake up and address whatever authority can help you out, whether it's like your own pride. Anyway, I'm gonna go off on a tangent about a lot of stuff. But yes, I definitely think that writing is super duper healing, and I want to, you said it in a certain kind of way that I want people to take away from this. I don't know if you can jump back to it. Let's put you on the spot. Really distill the essence of what you had said about healing, if you could. What was that? I added pressure on. That was needed.
Yeah. Used to it. Had to try. No, I was just bringing
back
to that point, right? Shining light just on the fact that as writers, even though we do through our writing or through our art in general, if you're creative, through whatever you create, you've been given the power, the ability to heal others around you through what you create. But it is never to be compared or even it's never to replace the fact that your writing or whatever you're creating was meant to heal you. There is an audience of one, and that is you. And there's somebody who needs to be healed. And I know, at least personally, there's so many times where I'm like, oh, I want to impact this group of people, or this type of society, and all, the audience. And I have to remember, it's for me.
Yeah.
These writings, these songs, these psalms, these ideas, they are to bring healing to my own life. And I believe that God is the one who has given us that gift and that ability, that power to not just, heal others, but to bring that healing to ourselves first, because I don't know which one of you used the example of like a hospital or a doctor. Yeah, Kevin. How can a doctor effectively heal their patients if they are hemorrhaging inside?
Yeah.
They can, but not for long. And that is a mindset, where it's like, as writers, even though we're gonna impact and bring relatability or healing or something to other people, we cannot forget that what you have produced is also supposed to be consumed by yourself first as well. And so, yeah.
No,
was that good?
No, that was super cool, and I think that's one reason why, when we were gonna call it Holiday Writers Commission, I was like, it still makes so much sense, because in a lot of ways we all are writers. No matter what, you're creating the story of your life. And one of the biggest things that I encounter now when I'm realizing that people are maybe having a struggle in one area, I'll find that usually it comes back to their ability to storytell, and that's why things like the law of attraction or even some of the other things that people do that like a lot of spiritual stuff is really about storytelling. It's like, how do I place myself in the story of my own destiny? And on a very small scale.
Say it again.
Oh, how do I place myself in the story of my own destiny.
Somebody. That's
You can
good.
get that and more when you search Kenyo poetry books at your local Google. But what was I gonna say? But do I place myself in a story of my own destiny?
That's good.
Where was I going after that?
No idea.
Great, good job.
But it was good. Someone needed to hear that again.
That's true, that was out there for someone, but I think I was going somewhere where we're all writers, everything's a story, we're all doing the story. It's gone. I'm just gonna have to assume that it wasn't that big of a deal. Well, we all are, writers, and we all are taking part in that. So I think it's super great for like the idea of celebrating HWC Holiday Writers Convention, and just the idea of writers is really to give everyone that ability to connect back to that part of themselves and really know how to storytell. And media is really fun, and I think as kids that really helps, and it's good for you to get healthy at it young. I mean, get good at it young in order for you to be able to be like a healthy and have that healthy mentality. And I was gonna say that as far as that whole place yourself in your own destiny or whatever your destiny is, I think I was going in a place where, like it's pessimism is a certain kind of storytelling, and anxiety is a certain kind of storytelling, and it's like telling yourself those kinds of stories. And some people get really good at it, and that's like a story that you're telling. And sometimes it's just like, I'm going to go back to it again. And don't think that I don't understand or I don't have sympathy for people with anxiety. It's more about how I think the problem should be solved. If you encounter a problem, but you don't have the ability to first storytell a situation where this thing doesn't kill you, then you're going to be deathly afraid. You'll be as afraid as if someone was going to stab you when it really isn't that dire. And even if it might be, I think knowing how important that is to you at that point, let's say you were going to lose all of these things, then you want to know that ahead of time so that you can really even have the ability to observe the timeline of your own decisions. Was that as good as the Destiny comment? Observe the timeline of your own decisions.
Wow. Well,
okay.
No.
It was good. But just to meet you at that, because you keep bringing up anxiety, and as someone who does have anxiety and does suffer from panic attacks, learning to express what you're feeling is a lifeline like no other.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, not saying that it's the cause of a panic attack or just living with anxiety, like a beehive is inside of you constantly, but you just still exist.
Yeah.
Knowing how to express where you are, how are you feeling to someone or even yourself. Again, it's about being able to talk to yourself, writing to yourself, that has brought healing in my life, and I believe has the power to address, things in such a way where not discrediting medicine or, therapy in any way. I love both. But it does reach an intimate level in your own life in ways that I believe only you can. Because there's places in my mind that you can't go because you're not me. And I can't tell you how to. All I can do is know that I am existing, and I know that I can express. I've learned how to express what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, and because of that, there has been healing, there's been freedom. I don't have to avoid a mic in my face or things like this because of learning how to write, learning how to express, learning how to use those tools that, again, they already know. I'm not even ashamed. I'm just crazy. That I believe God has given us to use. So we're just all walking around not using the tools that were put into place, wondering why the hell are we malfunctioning? Because we don't know how to use the tools that we've been given.
Yeah. Boom.
You know, and that's interesting because it's like, you know, this year was the first year that I had a panic attack. You know, like it was legit, and it's one of those things where meditation helps me be present. You know, and when we talk about the stories that we tell ourselves, like there's people, and, you know, subconsciously we're moving at a rate that consciously we can't even understand. Like the majority of what we do is automated. You know, we just have that conscious choice to say like yes or no. But being present allows you to cut, you know, those stories that are that stories. You know, it's not to say that they're not real or fake, but it forces you to be present because the story is either talking about something that happened or something that is to happen. And when you're in both of those, that's where a high level anxiety is, because you're literally trying to go against the current of the unknown, and you just are going to get knocked down. And that's where a lot of like my anxiety is, because I'm just all like, okay, like this is what I want to happen, or this is what did happen. And you know, that's why like the book, like the 4 Agreements, is like so amazing, because it talks about these constant agreements that we sign off and we agree to, and we have this judge within ourselves and this victim within ourselves, you know, that's constantly this back and forth. And I think that those stories, when you are not present, that's when those stories get to come alive and thrive. And those are the things that causes us to, you know, dive into this darkness. But the cool thing about writing is that, you know, the light is in the dark. You know, it's just like realizing that, you know, the knowledge is in the darkness, you know, and being able to go through that darkness of your soul and be able to go through and tell your story no matter what while being present. You know, like we're so not present a lot of the time, you know, like when I really think about a time where I've been present, I can't complain. It's impossible, because it's all like presently, right now, I can breathe. Presently, right now, I can write. Presently, right now, I can speak. Presently, right now, you know, I'm able to not agree to anything that someone else projected on me, you know.
Super cool. All right, I think we all got one good one, so I'm happy. I think we can end it. I wanted to say something. I don't remember what it is. Oh, writing, storytelling. It's good for you to get used to it from a young age. I know, Lauren, you do a lot of stuff with kids and stuff like that, right?
Young adults, yeah.
Young adults, yeah. So I'm with my media company, Project Forward, which is how you guys are. Some of you are watching it. Some of you are watching it on Dab Troll, and then maybe Lauren shared it, so some of you guys. And then Facebook made really good technology, and so did YouTube. So I'm not taking credit for all of it. And anyway, so I like to help distribute, you know, content around ideas. And my fiance Danielle Victoria is super awesome. She's doing more and more media these days. Congrats to her. Good job. But I've been thinking about doing a project for kids for a long time. So we want to do at least like one project just to be like a leaping off point. What we want to do is do kind of like a Disney Channel show, you know, but like a better version. That kind of I don't really know. It might not be better, but a version where basically we get like kids to be like producers and writers and like a couple actors, and we film some sort of Project Forward Kids show using kids, because the whole point is to create media like in a more authentic, organic way, so that the people watching it can get a kind of glimpse of themselves. I think what's interesting about poetry, what I like about it, because you said like no one can get to those certain places in your mind, and I feel like by and large that's true, but I think why poets like put themselves through so much stuff. Like I have this one line in a poem that's like, my poetry says minds at one 100 lives per hour, something like that. And it's like, I'll leap off any cliff for a better poem, and I think sometimes like, I realize, that people are going through these weird, there's just no direct line of sight because like the internal mind, while it's not entirely unique, the way that we've mapped it, like everyone has the mind, but the way that we've mapped it, it might not be straightforward. Like, hey, I need to go to like into this room inside your mind and say this thing. It's not that straightforward. But I think poetry can catch people up. I think we're just at a place where our luxury has like really been distributed to the masses. Like I think in a lot of ways that not everyone, but in a lot of ways, kings and queens were the only ones to experience, even the luxury of time to think about a lot of the things that we're thinking about. And I don't know how great of a job they did, not very great, but they did all right. We had great poets and stuff like that, and I think that helped heal civilizations and groups of people. But in a lot of ways, we're at a new level of just realizing, okay, in ourselves, and I think as millennials, it's happening to us in the same time where it's happening to kind of like the world, us also because of age and maturity, and then also the world just because of social media. Like I see kids, I think in some ways are more just mentally healthy because they interacted in some ways they're not crazy, but because they interact with social media at a young age, I feel like it kind of makes you have a sense of self. You work with a lot of kids, so no, this isn't true. That's why we need Project for Kids tomorrow. They need it.
The social media is not, social media in general is not helping with kids because they don't know how to use it effectively.
Yeah.
So if it was a tool that they knew how to navigate in a way that would be beneficial to themselves, presently and in the future, it would be successful in that vein. But right now, it's the age group that I deal with and the demographic of students that I deal with, no, it's killing them, it's getting them suspended because the schools check that stuff. And they cyberbully each other, and they're just watching videos. Like I remember when YouTube first started becoming a big thing, before ads, before all the ads. And I would sometimes just mindlessly watch videos, like funny videos or humor videos. Today, the way we would look at memes. So that's what they're doing on their phones.
Yeah.
They're just wasting time. And if I knew then what I know now about time, I would have been doing more than just watching YouTube videos. So,
yeah. I see what you're saying. I think one benefit of the way that they're wasting time, or the way that we used to waste time, is because we used to have to waste time based off of whatever was just going on, right? And they are kind of like that too. But like, I had to waste time on like Pokemon, or by like, I don't know. I mean, I read a lot, but you can also waste time by in these like either in popular media or popular video games. Whereas like now, at least they have YouTube, they can at least get really good. They can at least waste time at watching something that they specifically like. I don't know how many of them are really doing that though, but like getting deep into their interests, because that's actually profitable if you do it enough. Like people who are like making careers off of playing video games and stuff like that. It's like, hey, that's kind of cool, and at least that lets you know like where you rank. Like you're playing video games for free, this guy's making money. I think that's kind of why hip hop is technically, in some kinds of ways, inspirational for people, even when it is just the most hedonistic in its own form. Like we're just talking about money and girls. I think in some ways it talks to people in a language that they understand, and then if you actually listen to the ones who are successful, even though they talk about all that stuff, which is like kind of the context of their world, they'll still say things that kind of put people up on game a little bit. But anyway, I think I'm just getting kind of in the woods. I don't want to do that. I think I do want to let Lauren go, because I know you need to leave. And
it's all right.
Yeah.
Trade off.
Yeah.
I
Tapped in.
texted you. I texted you. I don't do media.
Do you really?
But you have
What
a,
does that
I was like, I don't think that you have a phone number on your business.
No,
I only get letters.
Only letters. So what's the best way for me to get in touch with you?
The best way for you to get in touch with me is to text me today.
What happened to her original text?
I don't know.
She blew me off.
No.
Okay, I need your number again then.
That's area code.
Yeah.
I mean,
we can
right
write it down.
I know. You can find me at my personal number at Nanya. Okay.
You can write it on something. But
Yeah,
to
no, I
get
got a
hold of
card.
it.
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
Oh, that same card I text? That's the one that has the number that I
It's
texted?
new and approved. It's thicker.
It's thicker. Does it have the same number on it?
It's new and approved as well. You weren't here when I was talking about the. Thank you.
You weren't here when I was talking about the anxiety levels, and I was talking to Kevin, about being overwhelmed, and I made a little joke, but it was very real. I said, "Oh yeah, I read this every time I feel overwhelmed," which is every 20 minutes, and so I'm sorry,
It's cool.
but text me for real today, and I will get back with you today. There we go. Power of media.
Boom.
Power media. Which, by the way, I just want to say real quick, because we were talking about that. I don't know how well that correlates with the writers, what we were talking about earlier. However, I do completely agree. I think that we are exposing our youth, our children, at a way too early age, or we're just not giving them the tools to correctly weather that, because they are being exposed to comparison. They are being exposed to so many things that, by the time they're our age, they're already getting implanted with comparison and fear and over-sexualized fantasies that don't exist, and all different things. So too early. It's too early. It's too early. Too much. Too much. Too early.
I think.
I gotta go.
Oh yeah.
Let me get you my card.
I think one way that we're doing it differently, because I think in general, people were already doing that kind of thing, but I think in one way where it's different. Sure, if you want to. I think, we'll keep going. Me and Amina, you're right. In one way where it's different, I think, is that we leave the kids super alone. I feel like
text me, okay?
what's cool about pre-social media is that the kids were you got your parents, you have adults sprinkled around the world, but on social media, they can have their own playground, in the dark. That's what makes Tumblr really scary for me in certain kinds of ways. If I had a teenager, I think we just need teachers and parents and uncles and aunts to get more into social media and be right next to their kids. That's why they might say oh, it's weird when your parents get on Facebook, right? But I think it's also super beneficial for you to exist in a society that's not just other 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds and stuff like that. It's not the best way, So in addition to learning just tools of social media, which in a way, it's the same thing as that conversation. We just thought it was different, everyone got addicted to the idea, media is just very confusing. It's the same reason people feel awkward in front of a camera, and they also feel like a camera itself makes them famous, so they might start acting bougie or weird. I think in the same way, social media can trick you, and then you feel this feeling of shame when you're oh, maybe I was a little bit too into it or whatever, and you have to realize the truth that, you're just a regular person, and then having to dial stuff out, dial stuff back, and stop being a weirdo, because people will have whole breakdowns on social media.
Yeah.
I'm just what are you, okay, if you want to. Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, so to what you were saying about having some type of supervision on the internet. One thing is, they started, I think, with being able to set parental settings on your cell phones and things like that. Then nowadays, kids, they'll figure out the password really fast or whatever the case may be, so they bypass that system. So then you have all of these security systems or Facebook security or whatever the case. So if somebody flags your post, there's this team that investigates or whatever. So some type of supervision, an app or something where it's just parents who volunteer or whatever to be kind of that community could do something like that. There's an opportunity for educators to have social media presence professionally, because
Yes,
some,
I think so.
Some kind of get into it, but a lot of my students want to follow me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I can't right now. Wait till you graduate from high school. Just because I don't want there to be any kind of implications or whatever. But
I almost think that it should be mandatory. Like if you're on Facebook and you're in a class, I think while you're on Facebook, if you're in a class, your Facebook should be tied to whatever class you're in.
that could be, but I mean, like, people have personal accounts. And then they have,
Well, yeah,
more
the
business
teacher should
accounts.
have a teacher account.
Right.
Just like, yeah, so it should be a separate account that's like run by the school, but it should be attached to it. And it's not mandatory, I don't know, I just think something like that needs to go on.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool idea, but then there's so much red tape and legal implications that we have to watch for with all the laws and teachers feeling like it's okay to engage in some kind of relationship with their students.
Yeah.
But I mean, if my students could see consistently what I do outside of school, they're gonna, oh, Ms. Parham, you do this, you do that?
Yeah.
Or then they can see who I'm connected to.
Yeah.
So they can, oh, I want to learn graffiti. Instead of scrolling through random memes and stuff all day.
Yeah.
They be like, oh, Ms. Parham's following this person. They're following this person. So then they become interested in what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we can kind of monitor in that way and just kind of steer them in the right way.
Yeah.
But again, that's wishful thinking, and I think some people are able to do that. They have like Facebook, like a group page for their class or something like that, but a teacher really takes a big risk by doing something like that.
Yeah. I think it's also unfortunate that I think a lot of media personalities are realizing that role, they act super trappy, until they get famous, and then they're like, oh, I want to be a good mentor to the kids, and like, I help them out, you know what I mean? That's why I try to tell them, yeah, I'm Lil Beezy, I do what I do in the streets, but you can be better than me. But maybe we'll get lucky and more media, because those media people are those kinds of people, and they can steer kids in that direction. So maybe we'll get lucky and media will move more and more in that direction. I kind of wonder what it would take, for something like that to happen.
As like being in the hip hop community, it's very interesting the level of independence. Like, I look at hip hop like a cage lion. It originally didn't start off that way. But we're getting to a point where the cage was imaginary. The cage, whether it was by record labels or anything else like that, real hustlers, so to speak, knew how to make money with music. Whether it was like, all right, I'm going to be independent, I'm going to sell them out the trunk. Chameleonaire Paul Wall. Ludacris before he repackaged his first album. And he originally started off selling it straight out the back. And so I think that where we're going with independent music as far as that reach, you're seeing more organic people that are getting on the microphone and that are getting their music out, and now there's no person saying like, this can't go out to the masses because we have the internet. So people are making their own decisions. So yeah, there's gonna be a little bit more reach and more financial income when it comes to someone that's on the radio, but someone that's independent can get on the radio as well, and they don't have to quote unquote sell out. But the independent route that we're going is remnants of like what we've always had as a people. Like we've always just saw like the way that I look at it is like, as writers, as people that do have influence, because that's the one thing that a lot of people will tell an artist, like, you should be saying this because you do have influence, and I'm up and down with that, because it's just like, at the end of the day, I I personally want authenticity.
Right.
You know, so if that's you, you know, we're complex, you know. There's like a small little ratchet side of me, you know, but and who makes music for that little part of me? I don't want to ignore that, but what parents and what we as leaders, you know, that say we're leaders, that actually want to step into that mantle. I'm not going to force anyone who doesn't want to be, you know, take that on, but if you say that's what you want to do, then you're able to direct and give that information of like, look, like, this is exactly what I went through, and you just have a choice with as much music as much music is coming out at this point, and the fact that everyone can, you know, we're in a really interesting place where, like I was saying earlier, when it comes to writing, even writing into music, things are going to be switched. You know, hip hop went from nothing to the highest paid genre in the world. You know, it's the newest genre, you know, as far as, you know, what people would say, but it's surpassed in this shorter period of time. So, you know, I think parents, people like us, need to get to a point where we can teach kids that what you're listening to, you know, you don't take serious, you know, as far as like if someone's sitting, you have to be able to learn how to detach, and they don't know it from off the back, but some parents think that their kids do. Like you're barely learning social media, so you don't have anything in place that filter, you know, like how your kids navigating through social media, what it is. Like I was saying earlier, when it comes to, you know, like Laura was saying, when it came to judgment and things like that, you know, we're in a time frame where, you know, that's not a class, you know, in school. Like social media, it should be, you know, like it, because even for adults, like even in college, like these kids, you know, at that particular young age, they're impressionable. That's mainly the issue with parents, you know, getting upset that their kids are listening to a particular thing, is because they're impressionable, but you don't have anything in place to balance it out.
Wow. You said three things that really have my mind going. I think the first was this division between independent artists and what they bring to the table versus a more mainstream artist. And when people say sell out, I think in my imagination, I would assume that's more of like, you know, not necessarily pledging some oath and all these things of the conspiracies, but not being able to read the contract that you're signing is selling out, because you put yourself in a position where you will be beholden to another person. And you basically trade your image and your name, and you lose control over that for nothing in the long run. So teaching students, for me, or teaching young people, is like contracting. That's the one thing that's going to separate you from somebody who can be independent, is when you're presenting your contract and they can revise and send it back to you versus them giving you their contract. It's totally different. So that's the first thing. And that's something that, like with what we're doing, I really hope to bring that to the table. Also, you said something about
I just want you to go deeper into it, but let me let you finish.
Okay. Parents not knowing what their kids are listening to and that kind of influence. A lot of the parents that I deal with, I don't want to say everybody is like this. I see where the kids get it from, you know, and they're just about our age, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older, but they trapping every day, and they're in a club, and then you can't get a hold of them when it comes to their grades, but they want you to do everything, right? So then when you try to take a more influential active role, now you're breaking some law, and the parents are all on you, but it's like, when I'm trying to get a hold of you, I can't. And so the children are gonna learn what's in their environment and what parents think is okay. So a lot of the music that the kids listen to is made for their parents, but they like it, so they listen to it too. But it's not necessarily for them. And you said that kids, they like the music, but not necessarily the content was best. And they know that. I figured, like, I did a lesson on this, and they have a category of poetic rappers, and we made a category of trash rappers. And a lot of their favorite rappers are in the trash category. So they saw it. Why? Metaphors, literary devices, all these things. What separates a poet and a writer and a lyricist from I'm making money. And they'll even say, well, I don't like that person because he's a gangbanger, or he's a this, or he's a that. And they'll still be like, but I like this music though. Why? Well, it gets me hyped up. Well, this can too. You know, somebody asked me today in school, who's Nas? Where's the camera? Who is Nas, miss? Okay? I had to put him on game. We did a whole lesson on that. And then you said about the app, or there being some infrastructure. Parents are also using social media as diaries and things like that, so they're not using it correctly either.
Yeah.
So I like what you said about there needs to be some kind of class. And right now, we do a brief presentation on bullying and how you should not use the social media, and then we never cover it again, and kids completely continue doing what they're doing. They try to ban cell phones from being used in the classroom. But they don't teach, it's like rather than making something taboo, teach about it so there's some awareness involved. Because young kids have the capacity to know. It's us taking that lead and teaching them truth and not coddling them in a way. But in public school, there's so much legal ramifications that you have to tread some kind of line. I think that in the more financially destitute areas and social economical situations, you're going to see more of that versus if you go somewhere with a higher tax bracket, they might have those classes, those social media classes. They might have all that stuff. So there's also that division between what we should not rely upon another entity to do for the communities that we live in. And that's what you said that made me like, oh.
It's interesting. You know, when I think about the fact that, you know, we downplay, you know, the capacity of kids. You know, when I think about how quick a kid can learn, like the language, I'm just all like, I'm kind of jealous. You know, because it's just like when you're older, you're pushing against so much that a kid is just all like, oh, they don't have that, I wouldn't say feel, they haven't developed that fear, is what I would say. Because kids, for the most part, are fearless. I think that they're taught fear, you know, because you have the parents who, yes, they listen to that stuff, but they're not taking into consideration that, you know, we live in an age where you can control, like, what you listen to and when you can listen to it, you know? So it's just all like, okay, you like that, that's perfectly fine, you know, but do you have to play it around the kids? Like, you know, there's some parents who can, you know, keep a low key that they smoke from their kids, but you can't, like, what you listen to, and your particular reason for that is because I'm an adult, and that confuses the kid, you know. And there's a lot of confusion when it comes to, you know, the kids, because they see their parents doing this and all they can think of is like, I'm an adult, so that when they grow up, I can do, as soon as they're 18 or whenever they personally feel, you know, they're adult, they're just like, well, I can do this because this is all I've been wanting to do, because you've made this perception all my life that, you know, this is what adults can do. You like made that particular thing, but what that does is, I think that it creates a form of laziness that just isn't talked about, because it allows for them to not go the extra mile because they weren't taught that discipline to be able to separate, that they were even considered, you know, in the future. Like, as far as all, like, you know I'm a kid, you know that this potentially has the power to influence me, so you're going to just allow it to keep on playing. You're going to allow them to watch particular movies that just aren't their age. You're going to allow them to have a cell phone that has these social media apps on them and not any type of filter, you know, so.
Okay, I was gonna say to that, and then there's the flip side, to where if you are going to expose your children to that type of media, contextualize it. Don't just let them listen to it and it's like, okay, keep going. Like, sit down and have a conversation, break down the lyrics, look at the lyrics with them. You know, spend that time. That's education. So some students, I can only come at them with what they listen to. They won't do anything else. So it's like, all right, let's break these lyrics down. Take this one and write the lyrics. They won't write a sentence for me in class, but if I tell them, write your favorite verse of this song. You know, okay, cross out all the basic words. Okay, what vocabulary do you have left? Do you know what this word means? No, and go from there. So even if we're not in a position where we can just shut everything down or, you know, keep certain things contained, contextualize it. And that becomes a vehicle to teach. Something else you said. I don't really remember off the top of my head, but there was something else you said that was key. But I know you had something that you were going to say a little while back.
I don't remember, but I am soaking up just like...
it was something to the effect of, like, when we were talking about contracting. You had...
Oh, yeah. Actually, I did want you to go deeper into that concept about how you said it was like when you're working with kids, it's like contracting.
That reminds me of what you said. Okay, so what does it mean to be an adult? I can grow up and do whatever I want and do all the things my mama wouldn't let me do. And like you said, it makes this absent-mindedness of what to strive for as you become of age. So discipline, the ability to balance different life activities, how to take care of yourself when you're stressed out, how to recognize when you're stressed out. Being able to think critically and long-term is what it means to be an adult, in my opinion, rather than just turn up, I do what I want, you know. And again, society has a lot of milestones that don't really mean anything at a certain age. And contracting is something we should be teaching our youth from the beginning. Because are we raising these young people to be dependent upon us or being able to be independent?
Yeah.
So I grew up, it doesn't matter what you think, it doesn't matter how you feel, you're gonna do what I say.
Yeah.
Right? Research says to be firm, set boundaries, have discipline, and leave room for dignity, and give that other human being, not just your child, this future businessman, this future businesswoman, an opportunity to communicate and express their perception. So now you can see where they're coming from, and to negotiate. Because I want you to be able to negotiate your job offer when you get older. So where are you going to learn how to do that but at home? I need to teach you how to do that. So with little stuff, they do it with little kids, you know. You can pick this outfit or that outfit. I want this one. Now they've made a choice. They feel empowered. But you still set some kind of parameter for them. And contracting, what I've studied, it's very similar to romantic sexual relationships. So a lot of our kids have no understanding of their body. They have absolutely no awareness of how to gauge in a relationship with somebody else, whether it's romantic, platonic, business, whatever the case may be. And that's all contracted. So when you're talking about sexual intercourse, there's business intercourse. When you're talking about a contract and laying out all parameters and agreement.
Businesses, I think about those different things and how one is a metaphor of the next. Those aspects inside of what makes a city livable. When you think about the residential areas, and like you'd always have to, in the game, you also have to balance, you know, your residential, they need jobs, so you have to zone enough industrial. And so if you zone industrial, they need places to sell their things, so you have to zone enough commercial. And then, you know, the people will go buy, you need enough people, then you have to, it basically comes back around, you have to zone enough residential for people to live there to go buy the goods. And then, of course, they need money, so you have to zone more resident, industrial. And they have to be happy too. So in balancing those things, you also have to build things like parks, right? Because the people won't be happy. Then you also have to build things like hospitals, access to health services, and they have to build police. And I think about that as like, you know, sometimes like understanding contracts and things like that. And really just being able to talk about, I think that contracts and I think what you said about agreements too, and I want to go back to the residential thing, but the thing about agreements too is like being able to talk about those things. I almost think that we wouldn't need contracts as much if we talked more. Actually, I could just leave it right there. But really, I think what's going on in businesses, there's talking time is such a commodity. So it's like, I'm gonna pre-write. That was the idea, I think. I'm gonna pre-write everything that we would talk about because we don't really have time to be in the same place at the same time. Like, it's like a meeting that's written down, like pre-document. We've already had this meeting, here's the meeting. But it's like, you don't really know. If you just sign it, then you're assuming that you were in that meeting and every time they said something, you said yes. That's what you're doing when you sign it. But if you really read through it, then you're saying yes, then you might call them and be like, hey, no on this. What do you have to say on this one?
I could be wrong.
No.
But I'm just gonna give what's in my head right now based on some things I've been learning and experience. I had an opportunity to meet this businessman, and he's a Jewish guy. And his rule was, he built this huge business. His rule was, you don't make contracts with family. And in a way, extending a contract is telling somebody you don't trust them, right? And so, again, that contraceptive that you put out.
That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Then there's the aspect of our people ran governments. We may not be running, we're not flying the airplane here, but we used to. So if we can run a government, we should be able to contract independently for a workshop.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's what starts to create independence. And I think that prior to being colonized, whether it be by foreign entities or some of our own people, there wasn't that need to sign. It was oral. You did what you said you were going to do, and that's one thing we had was our word, and it was real. I remember a scene from Homicide, where I forgot the actor's name, but it's an African guy. He says something to be translated. The attorney, the European attorney says something to be translated to the guy. And he says something about, we're going to try to win your case. And the guy stops, the translator stops. And he said, I can't translate that. He said, why? He said, there's no try in this language. You either do it or you don't. So that creates that mentality for me is, Do I need to sign a contract? No, because I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. But some people have to put their signature so you can be beholden to it, so you don't get ripped off, or whatever the case may be, you can have remedy if something happens. And again, you come back to that agreement. Especially if there's a lot of people involved, it's like, okay. What did we say before we started? And then I feel that transition from being oral and trusting each other with our word being our bond, coming into colonization and things, there had to be a way to steal land from people. There had to be a way to steal property, and it was all done through contracts. If I know you can't really read this, if I know you can't really understand this, and you're like, oh, okay, our signature, our autograph is so powerful. We're the grantor's. And when we sign, we're giving that document life. And so contracts have been our downfall in a way. And the only way I feel to move forward is to become literate in being able to produce those. And that comes with reading. Just reading comes in two parts. There's reading fluency and there's reading literacy. So I can be fluent, I can read the words. That doesn't mean I'm comprehending what I'm reading. So that whole aspect of teaching kids young, I teach my students, if you have a problem with a teacher, don't pop off at them. Go to the district website, find the policy, find where it says student rights, find out what your rights are, write a complaint. Because when you all get fussy with us, I never argue with my students. I'm not gonna argue with you, because while you're yelling and screaming and sitting in ISS or being suspended, I have documentation. And that's all. I don't have to say anything. I can just push that. And then that becomes the record. That becomes the court of record in a way. So teaching from that age up how to contract, and there's so many, you can create whatever you want. It's almost like a business. Whatever you want, those terms, it allows people to be independent and to protect themselves if they know how to use the weapon.
Yeah. There's so much there. I love thinking about contracts and stuff like that, because I really think about them as being a metaphor for relationships. Kind of like Amina said, not just relationships, but also your estate and understanding yourself and understanding the place that you live in. I think that's where contracts really come from. And then I think a little bit what's misunderstood to people is that their estate is so varied. It's not just that you live on like a certain place, because apartments become a part of your estate when you're leasing them. Now, that the reason why it's leased, and that's why I love this thing, like time estate, just thinking about what time estate is, I think of that as a metaphor for leasing, because it's literally an estate with a time limit on it. Like you own it for this amount of time. You can do it, anyone who owns anything within, there's obviously a bunch of different parameters, and even with your own house, there's a bunch of stuff that you can't really do, because you don't really own a piece of land, even though you call that real estate. Like your government, by being a citizen, you were born into this thing. They have eminent domain. If they want, they can take your land and give you money for it. There's certain things that you can't do if you're in an HOA. With your stuff, they might tell you how to keep your house and tell you what to do with your house and stuff like that. So really, even though you technically have like a never-ending, it's kind of like, but never-ending lease or something like that. Who are you leasing these things from? And then I think that's why people sometimes come up with the ideas like, oh, we're fighting against the man, but there's no man. You're essentially, there is man, there's us, our civilization, so we're making these rules because not only do we want to have a stable civilization, but we want to have a civilization that can progress. And based off of our knowledge right now, we lease almost, we buy, we lease, we cooperate, we make these rules, we make rules for people's estates inside of this collective progressive future. And there's so many different kinds of estate, I think. And I think art is one way of just getting your identity out there and having that be a lasting piece of space in a certain area. Anyway, I think even though we're waiting for Amita to get back, I think we'll end this. This is a long. I feel like this could never end, but I think what we're gonna do is me and Amita and Kevin will just talk without the camera a little bit as much as we want to. Let me see what's going on over here. Someone said, Mondrea Harmon said hello. What's up?
What's
up? What up, Mondrea?
What up?
We know him. Most people know him. You guys probably know him in some shape or form. But yeah, we're gonna end this stream. You guys can't see me right now. Thank you guys for watching this HWC 2018. Whenever you're watching this, shout out to you. Go over and head over to project4.tv. Head over to Amina, type in Amina Deshay in Google. If you're watching this in the year 2029, you can visit the virtual Amina Deshay Island via Mind Shuttle. You just type in Amina with your eyeballs. Anyway, and then Kevin Prince, aka Mr. Composition, Dab Troll, you can find him. Yeah, he also probably is the. I was trying to find another sci-fi metaphor. He runs the gives power to the. I can't think of anything. I was gonna say like in the future everyone has some sort of like built-in media thing in their house, and it's like, oh, let me call Dab Troll to fix this. It's like a thing, and then Dab Troll comes and you're like, oh great, I can make paintings again or something like that.
Hey, it's
Anyway.
a big customer service, like,
Brands of the future.
Wow.
This is the beginning. See you guys later.
Peace.
Oh man, that was super dope. There's so many gems throughout that.
2 hour.
All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. Woke up in the boardroom, and it looked like a monsoon. We had skyscrapers in the plans, and a factory in Japan. Headquarters in Lagos. All I want is a fella playlist. All my friends got letters from the president. He asked each one to be in his cabinet. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers on their toes. All my friends are CEOs, hidden tigers.
Oh no, I'm good.
If you want to introduce it, say okay.
Hi, my name's Abra.
Oh, hold on. Excellent.
Hi, my name's Abra. This is the final swing of my next album. It's going to be coming out in December, this month, on 20th. It's called Astral Projecting to the Pizza Shop across town. Look at this.
Yo, yo, yo. Mic check, mic check. Yes, sir. With this message. Yeah. 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 I keep a million on my mind, yeah. I spend a million on the dime, yeah. Today I'm with you, I ain't got the time, yeah. But I'ma stack this paper till I OD. Wish I bought like Kobe. You say I done changed, you don't even know me. Don't get me wrong, it's still a trophy. I'll do anything just to keep you wet, wet. Keep a million on my mind, yeah. I spent a million on the dime, yeah. Today I'm with you, I ain't got the time, yeah. But I'ma stack this paper till I OD. Bitch, I'm all like Kobe. You say I done changed, you don't even know me. Don't get me wrong, it's still a trophy. I'll do anything just to keep you wet, wet. Keep you wet, squirting. Just picked up a bag, tell me where you working. Her skin soft, cocoa butter, and that jerkins. Bitch, I hope you see what you like while you lurking. Bitch, I hope you got what you need while you learning. My heart beating with the speed like how you twerking. Ain't the baddest when I need, that's for certain. Bitch, I'm racing to it, ignoring you on purpose, yeah. I'ma spin it, yeah, you know I'ma spin it on you. Fuck society, you know I'm a menace, don't you? Sloppy mouth, don't take it to the dentist, won't you? Rest in the south, I would stop, but I'm winning, yeah, yeah. I keep a million on my mind, yeah. You spent a million on the dime, yeah. To lay up with you, I ain't got the time, yeah. But I'ma set this paper till I OD. Bitch, I bought like Kobe. You say I done changed, you don't even know me. Girl, don't get me wrong, yeah, you still a trophy. I do anything just to keep you wet, wet. I keep a million on my mind, yeah. You spent a million on the dime, yeah. To lay up with you, I ain't got the time, yeah. But I'ma stack this paper till I OD. Bitch, I bought like Kobe. You say I done changed, you don't even know me. Girl, don't get me wrong, yeah, you still a trophy. I do anything just to keep you wet, wet, it's wet. I do anything just to keep you wet. That song is called Moonstruck. It's off the Victoria EP. You can find that on SoundCloud right now. You dig what I'm saying? We live right now. Just want to thank everybody for coming out. Evie, it's just a little flex here. Hey, flex on the beat. Yeah, 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 yeah. Stokes, hey, hey, flex on the bitch, flex on the hater, iced out my wrist, fucker, see you later. All you niggas tricks, man, you looking like a skater. New pretty bitch, and she looking like sedan. Flex like a hoe, flex on the Kiki, I do wish you love it. Call that little CC. Niggas wanna beat me, tryna clone me, take my PP. Diamonds is a shame. Man, my diamonds all VV. When I drop, I'ma fuck your thigh. I'ma get a new estate just to count my guap. Little bitty on the way, about to have to fly. Shawty wetter than a leg, I'm about to set up shop. Hey, niggas smell. I don't like they fucking niggas smell. I don't like they hoes when they come, then I'm in. All you in the rim. niggas no dose, then I'm ballin' at the gym. That is him. I just want the win. Want the ends. I just want the ends. Drop top dose, just picked up some twins. One suck me while the other one do a rim. Flex on the bitch, flex on the ice down my wrist. Fucking see you later. All you niggas tricks, man, you looking like a skater. No pretty bitch and she looking like Zendaya. Flex on the hoe, flex on the kiki. Like the way she ride it, call that little bit CC. Niggas wanna beat me, try to clone me, take my PP. Y'all diamonds is a shame and my diamonds all BB. Flex on the bitch, flex on the hater. Ice down my wrist, fucking see you later. All you niggas tricks, man, you looking like a skater. New pretty bitch and she looking like Zendaya. Flex on the hoe, flex on the kiki. Like the way she ride it, got that little bit CC. Niggas wanna beat me, try to clone me, take my PP. Y'all diamonds is a shame and my diamonds all BB. Hey, hey, hey. You know what I'm saying? We got the live set going. You know what I'm saying? Shut the fuck up. Swap those show. Go stream my music right now. I need your money. So go do that. That song was called BB off the Victoria EP. You can stream that right now on SoundCloud. Swap those stuff. See your face off. Flex on you. I'ma flex on you. I'ma flex on you. I'ma flex on you. I'ma flex on you, I'ma flex on you, I'ma flex on you, I'ma flex on you.
What is it, sir?
Slow burn, like living in an alleyway. Cold shoulder, tied to a way of life. I wanted to take less, make less regrets, and lie by the lakeside. Prove my friends right, buy my dad a car so he could give my mom a ride. Instead I got to see how much I could be loved when I couldn't fight. I wanted more than I got, yeah. The big win from a young age.